everybody. Camera out here. Boom! It's your boy Matthew Maley for MatthewMaley.com. Well, wanted to do another poker recap video of my session from last night. I am in Arizona attempting to qualify for the Arizona State Championship Tournament, which if you guys don't know, it's a $1 million guarantee tournament. First prize usually takes about $200,000. And it's actually a very prestigious event. It's by far the biggest tournament that they ever have in Arizona. It's a $1,070 buy-in, plus for an extra $30 you get an extra 10,000 chips. So you can start with 25,000 chips, 45-minute blind round, starting at 25.50. So definitely a good structure for a tournament, especially in Arizona, because it's pretty well known that at the Native American casinos, they do not run the best of structured tournaments. So came to town to try and play a few of these single table satellites and see how it turned out, and hopefully end up playing in the event. I even brought my Concords, because as you guys know, I have a couple pairs of shoes that I will only wear when I make a final table. My Air Jordan 11 Space Jam edition are for a World Series final table, and I figured this is big enough to bust out my Air Jordan 11 Concord edition if I make the final table. So I even got them over there wrapped up, ready to go. But ended up playing two tournaments last night. They're single table. You just got to beat 9 other people, $120 buy-in, and you get access to the tournament. So pretty basic, pretty much just like the Lammers tournaments that they have in Vegas around the World Series of Poker. Pretty similar to that. So like I said, $120. They're just as shitty as those tournaments in terms of structure. You always start with 1,500 chips with 15-minute blinds, and after the 4th round, things get pretty crazy in terms of the blind rounds. Starts doubling and getting a little nuts. So gotta move fast, you know, and hard. Pause. So ended up after sitting for a little while and munching on some chicken chow mein, which if you ever go there, get their chicken chow mein. It is incredible. Probably my favorite chicken chow mein in the world. I love chicken chow mein. But after grubbing on that for a little while, I was able to get into a game. It took me about an hour for one to fill up. And they were only running it one at a time at first. So ended up hopping on the table, and from the jump, you know, I realized you gotta make some moves. Thankfully, one kind of played itself for me. Third hand in. It was first hand I played, third hand in. It came around to me with 2 calls to me, 2 off the button, and I put in a raise to 175 with pocket 4s. Went around, the big blind called, and a guy who had opened the action actually called as well. He was under the gun +2, I believe. Flop came up queen of clubs, 10 of clubs, 5 blank. Okay. So they both checked to me, and I figure, you know, got to throw a continuation bet out there. I don't love that there's 3 overcards on board, but hey, that's what you run the risk of when you start off with small pocket pairs. So I put in a bet of, I believe, 275, 325, somewhere in that range. And big blind folds, the guy who initially opened calls. Definitely scares me. I'm still praying that a 4 peels off, you know, and I'll feel a lot better, unless it's 4 clubs. So I end up, turn card hits, bing, 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 jackpot, 4, boom, not a club. All right, perfect. So I'm sitting there with a set, feeling pretty good. Again, guy checks to me. I figure, you know what, he already called me on the flop. I might as well continue the action. Also kind of thinking that if I check there and then another club hits, he'll put me on the flush draw, and if he doesn't have the flush draw, I'm not going to get paid off. So I've kept the pressure on, and this time, it wasn't a big bet. It was only like 425, 450, rather small bet based on the pot size, and again, I get called. Okay, so now I'm really just praying that, you know, whatever card hits on the river, it can be a club that pairs the board, and I get a boat. I'm assuming at this point that he's either got a good queen or he's got a flush draw. So the river card was definitely a club, and it was another 4. So I had quad 4s. It was pretty nuts. I only had 525 remaining. Then I had to have bet a little bit more than that, because if you start with 1,500, now that I think about it, because I raised 175 pre-flop, about 200. and I bet 325 on the flop, so now we're at about 500. And then, so I had to bet probably about 600 on the turn then to have that 500 remaining. And after he thought about it for a little while, he ended up calling. So I got the wonderful feeling to simply roll my hand over, drop it, and say, nuts, which is always such an amazing feeling. Sadly, it does not happen to me very often. I swear, I win 90% of my poker, 90% of my sessions even, without ever seeing anything better than like a set if I'm lucky. And every time I seem to get anything better than that, I always run into, something else comes out. I'll flop a flush, and next thing I know, it goes boom, boom, runner for a boat, or I flop a straight, and then it gets flushy, or anything like that. It's kind of crazy. But so that was a nice pot. I ended up doubling up. I mean, second hand in. That leaves the guy with very few chips left. But sadly, after that hand, I ran really, really, really badly in terms of cards. I got more 9-3s, 7-4, 7-2s than you can count. It was really pretty ridiculous, honestly, how many were hitting one after another. And then all of a sudden I pick up a hand, like an ace-king type of hand, and then, raise, everybody would fold. I did have one hand, actually, I'm sorry, before the madness kind of started, where a guy opened the pot. Blinds had gone up to 5,100, and he opened the pot for 400. It was 450, and he only had like maybe 550 or 650 left behind him. So when it came around to me, I was on the button, rolled over. I had pocket tens, so I ended up shoving on him, hoping that I could get him. He was already committed half his stack. Thought he might. He ended up letting it go. So I'm assuming he was raising pretty light there. So I ended up taking down that pot, and then it got pretty south. And then every so often I'd catch like a run of like 3 hands in a row where it'd be like king, queen, ace, king, something like that. And then I would run, pretty sad and pretty sour again. So it kind of sucked because, I start off with this great lead, and even though I was trying to be aggressive, and I was taking down a hand here and a hand there, just with pure aggression, everybody else was starting to catch up as well. So ended up losing the chip lead pretty quickly after that, because he was the guy who I initially almost took out, got the quads through, ended up doubling up like 3 times in a row and just having this huge chip stack. So ended up another big hand that happened was I had ace queen to a guy's ace jack, which held, so that built me up pretty well. And then really after that, I really was trying to stay aggressive and whatever, but we were down to 5 hand at this point, and I had 3 hands that I hit second pair on, and all 3 times the guy that beat me had top pair, but with a crappy kicker. So they were playing it very, very, very gently, if you will. And the one hand, I had jack 5, and the flop came up queen jack 4, and it went check, check to me. I actually checked it. Again, not really sure what I wanted to do with it. Really, I probably should have bet there to see where I was at, but I didn't. Turn card came out. I want to say it was either a deuce or a 9, and vice versa. Whichever the river was the other one. So now it checked again. I bet at it, but now the blinds were 200, 400 if I'm not mistaken. So I put 400 in. I'm sorry, I put 800 in, and then got called by one, folded to the other, folded. Now it comes down to the river. River was either the 9 or the deuce, and this guy shoves. So he's check called the entire way down, and then he shoves. What am I going to do? He ended up showing he had a queen. It was like queen 3, I believe, queen 3 or queen, maybe he had queen 5. Maybe that's what it was. So I was dominated, the whole way down. So that hand took a good probably 1,200-1,300 off of me. Then had another hand that I raised pre-flop with ace 10, got a call. Then on the flop, hit a 10, but flop came out king blank 10. And was checked to me again. I bet, was called. And turn card came out a blank. I checked, or he checked, I checked. River card came out. He bet, I called, and he had ace king. So just three hands like that just, they didn't play the way that I would have thought they would. And the next thing I know, I went from having like 6,000, 7,000 down to having like 3, and then down to having like 15. And now blinds are going up to like 300, 600. So finally I ended up shoving with, I honestly, I don't even remember what it was. It was not a good hand. But, oh no, it was ace tray. Ace tray. Got called by ace queen. Guy woke up with ace queen on the big line. And, well, we both hit an ace. Derp. That's all it was. So that sucked. Ended up getting knocked out 5th in that one, which, you know, was kind of a squandering quads. Kind of pissed me off. So then I was waiting around for the second one to fill up. And it was kind of cool. Little YouTube moment here I got to mention. But as I'm standing there waiting for the next event to take place, or the next table to take place, I just talking on the phone, I see a guy kind of look back at me. He's from the blackjack table. So I'm just chilling, you know, whatever, waiting. And I get off the phone. He looks up. He goes, "Hey, man, Matthew Maley?" I look at him. It doesn't compute what he said to me. I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You're Matthew, right? Matthew Maley." I'm like, "Yeah, you know, like, yeah, that's me." He goes, "Oh, cool, man. I follow you. I follow your blog. You know, he watches my videos, all that." So as you can see, I'm all happy about it. It had me all excited and like beaming and shit, which is kind of good because I just gotten off the phone with a really shitty phone call. So it was kind of funny, you know, like that timing. It actually put me in a really good mood. I know that sounds super egotistical and whatever, but just like that was cool. I'd never been recognized like that, you know. So shout out to my boy Jonathan. It was really cool. Glad you recognized me and said what's up. So we talked for a little bit, you know, about him watching my videos, about how Vegas is going and stuff like that. Then we actually we both were playing the same single table satellite. So I ended up sitting down, and it's a really young table. Out of the 10 people, I would say 7 of us were definitely under 30. One was probably 33 to 35, and the other 2 were probably 55 over. Which I felt bad for the one because he kept plugging his ears because we were so loud. So sorry about that, the old guy at the table, if you ever see this. But it was a really chill table, and it was really good players. It was one of the best tables I've ever had for a single table satellite, including out at the World Series. You very rarely get that many skilled players, and I would say of the table, I would say 6 of them were good players, and the rest were at least average or above average. So it was definitely a good table, which I actually like that. I like playing tough tables. I mean, yeah, I would have rather had an easy one to make, you know, for sure win, but at the same time, I like playing against, you know, good players. It's what builds your skill. So pretty quickly on, you know, we're all talking, having a good time, whatever, and I just start off cold as hell. My hands are not coming. I mean, it's just garbage, just getting blinded off. You know, I had a few hands that I called. I would just limp, just based on kind of, there were hands I wanted to see a flop with. A king 4 suited, you know, in on the button. I had that. I had another hand with queen jack, where I was 2 off the button. Sadly, I called. It was then called big blind raised. Everybody mucked. So there were, you know, some hands like that, so my stack started dropping. I got down to about just over 1,000. I was at like about 1,100, 1,200, and ended up going all in with an ace. I don't even remember what my other card was, but it was pretty decent. I want to no, it was ace 6 suited. It was ace 6 suited. Got called by king 9, I think, and it was a crazy flop because like on the flop, it came a flush draw, turn added a straight draw, and then the river, none of them hit. So I won with ace high. So the guy had either pair card, it was an open-ended straight draw and a flush draw. I faded like almost 20 outs. It was crazy. So that got me to doubled up. It was a decent pot. I still shoved a couple more times. One with pocket 6s, took down that pot. Another time with ace king, took down that pot, and by this time the blinds had gone up decently. So I built my stack back up a little bit. I was up to probably about 4,000, and then had a pretty decent sized pot. A guy 3 to the left of me ended up going all in. I was on the button. I'm sorry, no, I was in the big blind with king 10 offsuit, and it was called by my dude Jonathan. He called, and after some consternation, I ended up deciding to call. It ended up being 1,000 total, if I'm not mistaken, and I think the blinds were 200, 400 at this time. So it ended up, it was another 600. I ended up making the call, and I flopped a gut shot. And standard, tournament protocol, you check it down unless you hit something, unwritten, unspoken rule. So we both checked it down, and then on the river, I actually spiked the jack. So I hit the straight. So I ended up shoving at that point, and Jonathan folded, knocked this guy out. So that built up my stack a little bit more. That was actually a decent sized pot. I want to say it had to have been a little bit over 3,000, because with that pot, that got me up to like about 8. Then had another hand where a guy, it was an older gentleman. It was actually after the hand with the 6s, when I shoved with the 6s. They both folded to me and took down that pot. And then the very next hand, I woke up on pocket jacks in the big blind. And it went around to this older gentleman who was constantly plugging his ears. Once a bunch of the people left, he actually was super cool and was really talkative, but there were just too many young, loud guys there, I think, at first. So he ended up shoving, and I insta-called. He actually had a decent chip stack. He had probably just over 4,000. And I mean, not great by the blinds. I mean, blinds 2 and 4, so his M was like 8, 7.5, 8. But, he had decent chips comparatively to, where I had been that time last tournament. So he ended up shoving with pocket 6s. I had jacks called, all held up. So took down that pot, and that brought us to 3-handed, I believe. And with that, I was doing pretty well. I wasn't the chip lead. The guy directly to my right actually was, which I'll get into a little bit more. After that, and it was either Jonathan either went out 4th or 3rd. I apologize, I don't remember. It was a long day yesterday, and lots of poker. But he ended up getting knocked out, and the next thing I know, it was just me and this guy sitting directly to my right. And he had the entire time he was asking me lots of questions about tournament poker, about different casinos to play in, about different buy-ins, the World Series, Vegas, Aria, like all kinds of questions. Like, looking for information, not like about my play, but just curious about tournament poker. Turns out that it was actually only his second day ever in a casino before. He was still pretty young, and he'd just gotten into tournament poker. So he wasn't familiar with a lot of the people in it, the terms, information, all stuff like that. So it was cool, actually, kind of getting to talk with him some and teach him a little bit about it. So it got down to heads up, and as a lot of you guys know from my previous online experience and history, heads up is what I pride myself in. And I'm not saying I'm Olivier Bousquet or something, but I played, maybe not now just because of online going away, but before online poker went away, I played more heads up hands than anything else. That was just what I loved. I'd play 4 or 5 heads up matches at a time, usually from 50 to 500. And I loved it. I loved it because I'm very aggressive in heads up. Sometimes I get a little nittish when I'm sitting at a table, and I don't take as many risks as I should, but in heads up, I'm very aggressive. And I pride myself. I believe I can beat anybody heads up. Whether it's true or not, I believe I can. So I'd love to go on the NBC Heads Up Poker Championship. Sadly, it's been canceled from 2012 and ongoing, but whatever. So I always have a lot of confidence with my heads up ability. So not only add to that the fact that I feel confident, and I had a chip lead. I had about 8,000 when we first started. But also the guy that I was there with is not familiar with tournament poker, and I'm wondering if he'd even ever played heads up before. So pretty quickly on, I on the button, I had 7-3 offsuit, and blinds were 300, 600 at this time. So I raised it up to 12. I'm sorry, I raised it up to 1,800 with 7-3 offsuit. I know I was talking to my boy Frankie about it. He's like, "What? Why would you do that?" Well, you got to be aggressive in heads up. I raised pretty much every button heads up. That's what you got to do. I mean, you have to stay aggressive. If you sit around waiting for a hand, it won't happen unless you're this guy. So we'll get to that in a second. So he ends up calling, and the flop comes out king, queen, queen. All right. So he checks, I check as well. We both check. Turn card comes out a 7. Now, I really don't feel that good about the 7, because him calling my race pre-flop, he could be all over that range. I'm hoping just an ace. So he again checks to me, and I bet out. I want to say I bet 2,200, maybe 2,400, somewhere in that range. It was close to a pot size. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was probably like 2/3 of a pot size bet. Really just trying to take it down there, honestly. He ends up calling. Definitely gives me some pause for cause. I'm confused at this point, but I know, I've got to do something because I'm probably not gonna win with my, pair of 7s. River card comes out another king. So now I'm counterfeited. Kings and queens with the 7 on board. My 7 doesn't even play. I'm playing the board, but I know I have to take a bet at it. Have to. So he ends up checking to me, and I instantly shove. I put it all out there. Had about probably 5,000 left over, maybe 4,000 left over. But thankfully I had a lot of black chips, so it looked a lot more imposing by putting it out there. And he thought about it for a second. He goes, well, you're so calm, you must have it. So I told him I did, I said the river was good for me, made him think I had a king, whatever. He's probably watching this video right now. I'm sorry I don't remember your name, but now you know that I bluffed there. He added me directly on Facebook, so that was kind of cool. It was cool. Thanks to Jonathan recognizing me and us talking, it ended up getting 4 other people at the table interested in my website and me living in Vegas and all that, so I gave them all my business cards, and hopefully you guys are viewing. So that was a big hand for me, really big hand, and that actually got me up to almost 10,000. If I'm not mistaken, I had like 96, 97, where the other guy, there were 15,000 chips in play, so he had probably 53. So I end up, a couple of hands later, we exchange blinds a little bit, whatever, and I wake up with A7 on the button, suited, clubs. So I end up raising to, I want to say, the blinds had gone up as well. They were 500, 1,000. So I end up raising to 4,000, I believe, and he shoves. No, I don't think I even raised that much. Maybe they had gone up. Maybe they're still 3-6. And I think maybe I made it to 18 again, and he shoved. Or maybe I made it 24 and he shoved. And I pretty much insta-called, which I probably should have thought about it a little bit better. I know ace-7 suited in a heads-up match is a very good hand. Honestly, any ace is heads-up. But again, this isn't a slight to him or his inexperience, but I do feel I can beat anybody heads up. So afterwards, I really was thinking about it. Maybe I should have let the hand go, just because I felt like I could beat him heads up. So why not keep at it and grinding rather than putting it all on the line with a mediocre, ace. He very easily could have woken up with ace, king, queen, jack, 10, 8, or 9, 8, or any pocket pair. Or even a king-queen type of hand where it's only 60-40. So hindsight, always 20/20. Of course, if I would have hit an ace on that flop, it would have been beautiful. But I end up calling, and he rolls over 2 8s. Horrible. Honestly, I mean, that's pretty much as bad as it could have been without him having aces. Or I guess 7s as well. But it really was a bad, I was drawn to 3 cards. Tough. I end up actually hitting a 7 on the flop. So now I'm praying, maybe to pull some lightning out my ass and get lucky. But it didn't happen. So that was a huge swing. I go from almost having 2-to-1 chips to now having like 4,000 chips, 30. In fact, I think I had 46 or 44 afterwards. And then I was the big blind. So I had to put that out, and that was another 600. So I was down to 38. And then the next hand that really hurt me, I had ace-queen, and I raised. It wasn't that hand, it was the hand after that. I had ace-queen on the button. I raised to, I don't remember what it was, but it was a decent raise, and got called. And the flop came out, queen, jack, blank. He checked. I ended up betting, and he called. Turn card hit a 5. Again, pretty innocuous 5, no spade, no straight, no flush draws. Feeling pretty good about my top pair, top kicker. He ends up, I again bet, he again calls. River card comes, another blank. And this time he checked me, and I had a weird feeling. I almost shoved, but I ended up just letting it go, and he rolled over 2 pair. He had Jackson 5, Jackson 5. So that hand really hurt me. Next thing I know, I was down to, 1,200, 1,800, something like that. It was tough. So ended up shoving. Once I was ahead, I had an ace. I was ahead and I won. Another time I was behind. He had an ace. I had like queen 9, I think, and I shoved. He called it like ace tray. Hit a queen ball on the river. So that was nice. And then I had another hand where I doubled up. So next thing I know, I'd gotten back up to probably about 6,000. But the blinds are now 500, 1,000. And I ended up probably 2 hands of that, and I lost both those hands. So now I'm down to probably about 5,500 or 5,000 or so, because I think I built it up to almost 7,000. And ended up on the button, 4 deuce offsuit. I just wanted to raise and just take down the pot. I shouldn't have shoved, honestly. I should have given myself a little bit of full ability, not even full equity, but full ability. And I should have just raised and seen if he shoved, or at least taken a flop and maybe taken a play there. But I just was trying to take down that $1,000, and just chip away, just chip away, just chip away. So I ended up shoving, and he thought about it for a while, and I'm just praying, please let it go, please let it go, please let it go. And he ends up calling. He even said, you probably got me, and he rolled over king 10 offsuit, and flopped a king ball. So it's pretty much done, Up to that point, I was only 70-30, so it wasn't great, but 70-30 isn't bad, or 68-32, something like that. But with the king hitting, I wasn't even runner, and didn't hit either of the runners, so I was knocked out, and it was definitely a gut check, just because I really felt like I could beat him. Like I said, I feel like I can beat anybody heads up, but especially the fact that, he wasn't that experienced, and I do pride myself in heads up so much. I really was kind of punched to the gut, When it got down to heads up with my chip lead, I felt so positive about it, I really felt like I didn't have it in the bag by any means. I wasn't feeling cocky like that, but I felt that I was going to be able to take it down, that I had what it would take. And it definitely, next thing I know, I get knocked out, and it took the whole car ride home to talk it out and think about it and all that. And at the end of the day, did I need to shove with 4 deuce? No. But my M at this point is 3.5. It's more about just being first in the pot and shoving. I don't fault this call with king 10. I would have called as well, in that spot. Definitely. But it sucks. It definitely sucks. So I ended up going home after that. I only played 2. My buddy needed to get some tattoo work done the next day, so he wanted to crash out a little bit early. But I'm going to be heading back tomorrow to play a little bit more and see what happens, and hopefully build up the money, because I really, 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 really want to play. Especially after my boy Sam took 3rd last year. So I want to at least beat him by 1. It's not even that we're that competitive, but knowing that he did as well in this event, it really makes me want to do really well in it too. Since we kind of started off not grow up, but our poker careers grew up playing with each other. That sounded pause-worthy. Playing cards with each other. So it was definitely it still felt good getting second in it. Second's painful, and I almost wish that I could have had a hand that I just made a mistake on. My buddy also got second, and he, as we talked about, and he admitted he overplayed a hand. He ended up calling all in when they were dead even in chips with queen jack offsuit, or maybe it was suited, I don't know, but definitely overplayed his hand. And I don't even feel that I overplayed the ace 7 hand. I definitely see where I could have gotten away from it, just because I do feel I could have come back and beaten him. Otherwise, and if I had lost that hand, even then, we still wouldn't have been even. I still would have had the chip lead by a little bit. So, but of course, hindsight's 20/20. If he would have had pocket 6s and I roll that over, that's a great call. Or if he would have made that move with king queen or ace 2, or any of the other hands that could have been in the range, it would have been a great call. So I don't feel like I made a bad play with it, but it's just unlucky. And You know, I'm not going to be the guy who bitches about the fact I didn't hit my 3-outer. Everybody else hits 3-outers. I mean, I'm not going to be that guy. Even though I just kind of was. Wow. I take that back. Remove that. Strike that from the record so the poker gods don't punish me for being a crybaby. But it definitely, you know, it's definitely still good to get to second. You know, I felt good about that. And now I just got to boost it by 1, you know, and take first. So, you know, it was still fun playing, and it was really cool getting to meet somebody off my website. That was a lot of fun, and it was really cool playing with them as well. That was a great table. Shout out to everybody at that table. If you're watching this video, you guys were great players, and it was a lot of fun. One of the guys actually mentioned the guy that I took out with the King 10 when I hit the straight. He said, I wish that we could play with this exact same table, more deep stack, because there's some actually good players here. So it was definitely fun. But, you know, at the end of the day, you got to learn from it, build from it, and get better the next time. So definitely see what happens tomorrow, and hopefully I will qualify. I will make the second day. I'll make the third day, the final table, and get to bust out my Air Jordan 11 Concords. Take the saran wrap off them. But anyway, thank you as always for watching my video. I know it went a little bit long. Sorry I had 2 different tournaments to go over there. But again, want to say what's up to everybody. If you're new watching this video and we played together, good playing with you. Also, big shout out to my boy Jonathan for recognizing me, saying something that was super cool. Made me feel a little famous there for a second, so I appreciate that. And, well, keep checking out my videos. As always, I am Matthew Maley. This is MatthewMaley.com. You can check out all my videos directly on MatthewMaley.com. Check out the video blog tab. I'm a little bit behind updating, so I apologize on that, but I'll get it up there soon. You can also check out my previous video blog entries, which should be up there all by this weekend, which has all my previous entries from 2010 and 2011. You can also check me out on YouTube. Just search for Matthew Maley Poker. I've got all my videos there where you can like them, you can comment on them, and you can subscribe to my channel. Be first to find out when I post new videos. You can also check me out on Facebook. Search for Matthew Maley Poker. I post all my videos on there as well. So you can check them out and leave me a comment and even like them on there as well. Or share them with your friends. I appreciate it. You can also check me out on Twitter. Follow me at Matthew Maley. I'm always posting all kinds of new tweets about sports, Olympics, poker, shoes, music, movies, all kinds of stuff. So check me out on there. And as always, thanks for checking out my videos. So anybody else who's out there qualifying for the tournament, I hope you guys did better than me. I hope you got out there. And hopefully in my next video, you'll have a big smiling face. And I'm holding up my entry. So till the next video, I'm signing off. Peace out, everybody. Stay up. Maybe a creepy close-up.